What culture?
We're here with 9 celebrity voice actors who completely ruined their games. Notable for being one of the first big games for the industry, in the first time developer Neversoft managed to grab some A-list talent for their project, 1998's Apocalypse will also be remembered by many older players as the first dual joystick title to make it to consoles. The problem though, was that the whole thing was balmier than a platoon of cartwheeling pheasants. But the one thing that grates, even if you can throw on the nostalgia specs, is Bruce Willis's acting. Sounding more as if they've just pointed a microphone in the general vicinity of him as he shouted across the street to a friend. Most of his lines aren't even mixed in the same way as his opponents.
Welcome to paradise.
I'm gonna stick my foot so far up your end.
From one A-lister to another, Christopher Walken's turn as George in True Crime Streets of LA was not one of his best. He's already one of the most over-parodied and hilariously self-aware characters in Hollywood, but his performance in True Crime is either going to be something you really love because it's so stupidly over the top and wackened up to the max, or you'll be thoroughly baffled by his confusing intonation throughout.
That's what Viagra's for, sonny boy.
And it's clear that from his time in the studio, there wasn't one good take where either Walken or developers Lux or Flux were totally happy.
I'd say, Paul, dreaming will get you killed. Protecting the fools from the wise guys, the crooks from the psychopaths.
You'd think after playing a character for a few years, Tobey Maguire would be pretty good at being Spider-Man. But Maguire's performance in the official movie tie-in seemed to feature him as a broken, over-apologetic mess. This could just be an issue with the script, as nearly all his lines and exchanges open with some sort of an apology or other backtrack on what he's been up to or where. But still, when you're at the time the face of Marvel in cinema, carrying some of that magnetism into the voice booth shouldn't have been that much of a challenge.
Okay, Doc. I'm here. Where is she? You have to tell me where he is. I have to save her. Carjacker killed an old man earlier today.
When it came to Kingdom Hearts 2, Aerith voice actor Mandy Moore didn't reprise the role a second time. Instead, American Pie star Mina Suvari took over, although her far too light tonality leaned way too heavily on what can be the worst parts of RPG plot exposition, making what could have been a great scene with Cloud into a total cringe fest.
No matter how far away you are, once you find your light, I'm sure it will lead you back here again. So I'll stay here, and I'll cheer for you.
In a game where the opening cutscene has Curtis 50 Cent Jackson finishing a gig in an armoured bullet vest, only to receive payment from the club's owner in the form of a diamond-encrusted skull. Yes, a diamond-encrusted skull. You'd be forgiven for thinking this level of nonsense transferred into Jackson's lead performance. For the most part, it almost feels as if 50 Cent just turned up and recorded his lines all in one go, as whilst the members of G-Unit address him by name, he can't be bothered to do the same in return.
Take cover, 50. Hey, 50. Hey, yo, check out these 50.
Mr. 50.
Dialogue itself and 50's delivery is easily some of the stupidest you'll ever come across in all of gaming.
I need weapons. Is he safe? All right.
Far from what most people actually want when they Google Eliza Dushku wet, her role as Ruby in Artificial Minor Movements grindhouse-style shooter actually made a character that could have been remembered as a slickly badass female into the most forgettable part of the entire thing. Something that when your game features a heap of set pieces ranging from a guns and swords battle across multiple moving car rooftops to flipping off any nearby surface in twin pistol toting slow motion glory is quite the achievement.
Is that why we're here? Because you love books? Here's your fucking book.
Okay, Matthew Perry didn't ruin Fallout New Vegas overall, but his performance is to be one of the worst, most lazy realizations of his formidable talent since the career-establishing Friends ended. It seems as if the scriptwriters at Obsidian saw a heap of Friends episodes, throwing in as many lines as they could, where Perry could have taken the ball and ran with it.
Nice Charlies, too. Give him a shake for the Ben man, will you? Hello. Yeah, it's a tricky world out there. If I made this my pleasure, that...
Almost every line just sounds like it was a first take. Voice performances like Perry's stick out like a sore thumb amongst a sea of otherwise solid performances. It's safe to say that despite the many things Destiny does well, Peter Dinklage's voiceover as your companion Ghost is utterly lifeless, with his overall delivery having stress and intonation in all the wrong places.
That wizard came from the moon.
Granted, Dinklage is supposed to be playing an emotionless AI, but being he's created by a random celestial entity and tasked with resurrecting your character for the sake of some alien head bashing, you'd think Bungie would have told him to at least try and make the whole thing sound exciting. It's a bit of a strange turn from an actor we know can knock it out of the park.
Okay, the Skywatch is just on the other side of the steps. Well, I'm ready if you are. You know, this place must have been amazing before the collapse.
Lots of motion ahead.
It's rare that you get a game that doesn't have a single thing going for it, but from initial conception to gameplay and even the cast involved, nobody bothered to even go out and buy a coat of polish, let alone apply it to Gearbox's disaster piece. Terminator star Michael Bihn's cutscenes as Dwayne Hicks ground everything to a halt whenever he was on screen, with even the opening cutscene being a pretty good idea of just how phoned in the entire project was going to be.
My unit has suffered
mass casualties on LV-426.
Still, being that Bean was the star of Terminator before Schwarzenegger totally eclipsed him, and the fact that his character in the game was a reprise of his role from Aliens, he should have been able to grumble his way through a few militaristic lines of dialogue.
Corporal Hicks from the USS Sulaco. Wish you had stuff they're gonna figure out anyway. Then you better hurry, sir. Last FTL leaves soon and it ain't coming back.
Are there any other terrible celebrity voiceovers we missed? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe.